Hey guys, I hope you're having a happy Thanksgiving, or had one, seeing as I don't know how I'll have time to edit this video with my impending food coma. But, question, what's your favorite Thanksgiving Day food? Leave your comments down below. For me, it's the desserts. I love my family's chocolate cream pie.
Alright, block there, kill that. Oh, that is trample. Guess I'm just dead on board.
But, back to the gameplay. Today we have Jimmy piloting his $50 Estrid Enchantress deck. If you are interested in the deck, we did a deck tech linked in the corner. Next is Jordan piloting his Group Slug Thantis deck. This deck forces people to start swinging and really moves to end the game as quickly as possible. Third up is Fernando piloting his Meren Sack Hulk deck. This is a graveyard matter strategy that aims to find and sacrifice Protean Hulk to assemble an infinite damage combo. And lastly is Teddy, bringing out one of his older decks he owns. This is a $20 deck when he first assembled it, and it's Mikaeus Mono Black combos. This deck uses the commander and a variety of A+B combo cards to win out of almost nowhere. So unfortunately we lost the first 2 turns, but the game was pretty entertaining, so we still wanted to share it. As for a recap, Jimmy played a Wild Growth on his Azorius Chancellery, Jordan had a good start with a Soul Ring, a Lightning Greaves, and a Veteran Explorer who swung at Fernando, who chose not to block. Fernando played an Elvish Mystic who attacked Jordan, and also played a Grimflare. And lastly, Teddy played an Altar of the Brood and milled everyone for 1 card. And now we start the recording at Jimmy's turn 3. Jimmy plays his Command Tower and taps 4 for his commander, Estrid. He pluses her on tapping his enchanted permanents and then casts a Verity Circle. Jordan plays a Swamp and curses Fernando with a Curse of Disturbance. He then swings his Explorer at Fernando, triggering the curse and gaining a 2/2 zombie. Fernando blocks the Explorer and each player searches for 2 basics untapped. This triggers Teddy's Altar and everyone mills, too. At Jordan's end step, Jimmy casts an Eladamri's Call for an Archon of Sun's Grace. Fernando plays and cracks a Bloodstained Mire for a Bayou, and then casts a Survival of the Fittest. He activates it, pitching a Lesser Massacre, and searches out and plays a Priest of the Forgotten Gods. He heads to combat, swinging 5 at Jimmy's commander, and passes after that. Teddy plays a Swamp and everyone mills 1. He casts a Succumb to Temptation, and passes after that. Jimmy plays a Snow-Covered Island and then casts an Archon he searched for. He follows it up with a Kenrith's Transformation on Fernando's Priest, triggering the Archon's Constellation ability to get a Pegasus. Jordan plays a Forest and casts his commander Thantis, the War Reaver. He grieves his commander and swings Thantis and the zombie at Fernando. Jordan gets another zombie from the curse and passes after that. Fernando plays another Swamp and heads to combat, forced to attack from Thantis. Fernando swings the Grimflare and the transformed Elk at Jimmy, and the Elf at Teddy. Jimmy blocks the Flare with his Pegasus and takes 5 total due to trample, and Fernando triggers the Flare. On his second main, Fernando pitches a Destiny Spinner and doesn't know what he wants.
What are you getting?
That's exactly what I want to know. What am I getting?
Fernando eventually finds and casts a Tendershoot Dryad, gaining the city's blessing. Fernando gains a Saproling on Teddy's upkeep, and then during his main phase, Teddy pays 4 life to snuff out the Tendershoot. He follows it up with a Swamp, milling everyone, and then plays a Grim Horuspex, and then a Wing Rattle Scarecrow, milling his opponents again. Jimmy plays a Clean Heart Expedition, triggering Constellation, and then follows it up with a Halimar Depths, triggering the Expedition and rearranging the top 3 of his library. After, he casts an Eidolon of Blossoms, triggering double Constellation, for a Pegasus and to draw. He finally finishes it up with a Shimmering Wings on the Eidolon, triggering double Constellation. He heads to combat due to Thantis, and swings at Jordan, not realizing the spider has reach.
Does Thantis have reach?
It does.
Ugh.
It's a Spooter, Jimmy.
Oh. Spooters always have reach.
He then makes a deal with Jordan so he doesn't kill his Archon. Jordan on his turn plays a Temple of the False Gods and uses the favor to swing Thantis at Jimmy, and a zombie at both Fernando and Teddy. Jimmy chumps with a Pegasus, and Teddy blocks with his persisting Scarecrow, drawing from the Grim Horuspex, and Jordan makes another zombie from the curse. On his second main phase, he casts a Sandworm Convergence, to the dismay of Jimmy's board of flyers.
Play a Sandworm Convergence. Creatures with flying can attack me or a Planeswalker. I can, at the beginning of my end step, create a 5/5 green worm creature.
Wow.
I
Lame.
He creates a 5/5 worm and passes after that. Fernando starts off with a Bojuka Bog to exile Jimmy's graveyard and then casts Meren, and follows it up with a Sylvan Library. He heads to combat swinging the Elk at Jimmy and the Elvish Mystic, Saproling, and Flayer all head at Teddy. Jimmy doesn't block, and Teddy blocks the Elvish with the Horror Spect, gaining Fernando an experience counter, and the Grim Flayer triggers as well. At his end step, Fernando grabs a Viscera Seer back with Meren. Teddy plays a Swamp, milling everyone, then a Flesh Eater Imp, mill one, and lastly a Chariot of Victory, mill another. He goes to combat swinging the Horror Specs at Fernando and the Scarecrow at Jimmy. Teddy and Jordan gain a zombie from the curse, and Fernando blocks with Meren, and Jimmy takes the damage. Jimmy plays a snow-covered forest, triggering the Expedition. He then casts a Nature's Chosen on his Archon, triggering double Constellation. He taps the Chancery and untaps it with a Nature's Chosen to cast Estrid. He follows it up with a Dawn's Reflection on his Command Tower, triggering double Constellation. He taps the Command Tower for mana and then bounces and recasts the Shimmering Wings, triggering double Constellation. He then pluses Estrid to untap all of his enchanted permanents. He then bounces and recasts the Shimmering Wings, triggering double Constellation. He then heads to combat and swings out at Fernando. Both Jimmy and Jordan gain another zombie, and Jimmy passes after that. Jordan Bojuka Bogs Fernando's graveyard and then heads to combat, swinging out at Teddy, who blocks a zombie with a zombie. After that, Jordan casts a Vicious Shadows, to which Jimmy negates. Fernando triggers his library and takes 8 to keep it all. He plays an Exotic Orchard as land and heads to combat and swings out at Jimmy. Jimmy, being the macho man he is, takes the damage, and Fernando triggers his Flare. During his second main phase, he sacks the Elk to the Seer to scry 1, and then casts a Null Rod. He moves to his end step and gets back the Priest of the Forgotten Gods with Meren. Teddy plays a Swamp, milling 1, and then casts his commander, Mikaeus. There is a mistake on our part as Teddy equips his Imp with the Chariot, which isn't possible because of the Null Rod. Teddy heads to combat swinging the Flesh Eater Imp at Jimmy, and Jimmy tries to make a deal with Teddy, but Teddy isn't buying it. He knows that I won't edit the video if the game goes on for much longer. Jimmy doesn't block, and Teddy demonstrates his infinite sack loop, using the Scarecrow that comes back due to having both Persist and Undying. On his second main phase, he casts a Phyrexian Reclamation and realizes he actually just milled everyone out from the Altar of the Brood. Game review. So this is a prime example of not knowing what your opponent's strategy was. Teddy was able to fly under the radar for most of the game by playing unassuming cards. While people did know about the Triskelion combo, they were not aware of the other combos the deck had in store, and they will definitely be more wary of it in the future. Jimmy was in a good position, but I felt he shouldn't have taken all the damage he did, and instead should have been using his Pegasus as removal instead of just attacking. The Bojuka Bog from Jordan really shut Fernando down that final turn, taking away his resource advantage. But I hope you enjoyed this gameplay, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing, as it really helps us keep making videos. And remember, never give up, even if you're dead on board. I'll see you guys later.